Good afternoon or morning, everybody. This is John Barrows with J. Barrows Consulting. Hopefully you all had a fantastic weekend. This Make It Happen Monday, it's a low week. It's July 2nd here. July kind of 4th screws everybody up right in the middle of the month, kind of kicks one of those weeks into the everybody doesn't give a shit week. So decided to have Morgan on here so we could chat a little bit about some of the things that you should and could be doing this week during the pseudo downtime so you don't waste it. So what's going on, Morgan? How you doing?
Doing good, John. How you doing?
Good, man. So you're taking some time off this week, right?
I'm taking off. I actually hate taking vacations, but
yeah,
I'm taking off.
But we need some. Yeah, so you're leaving tonight, right? And you're going to be gone all the week. I'm taking Wednesday and Thursday off. But let's talk about, again, I want to use this podcast to give people a little bit of a kick in the ass, because the danger of a week like this, I actually think these weeks are great weeks for a couple of reasons. Because one, you can bang out a bunch of administrative stuff if you need to. One is, while everybody else is sleeping, you could be excelling, right? But what's the danger from your perspective as you see this week with reps who aren't taking vacation? They'll obviously take Wednesday off, or even for our Canadian friends and our EMEA friends who know that the 4th of July is on a Wednesday here in the United States, so they'll probably chill out on Wednesday. What do you see as the danger for reps who are working this week but might not be in the right mindset?
Yeah, I think there's really two options that you go into this week. It's either take it off and just straight up chill. So that's what I'm about to do. Like, obviously there's little things I might have to do, but like I'm completely checking out. Or like be involved and get some things done, plan some stuff out, and knock out projects that maybe you've been putting off. I think that's really how you need to treat this week, because if you're on the fence, you're going to be like in a half zone. And I don't think that's very beneficial at all, because you're going to be like, you're resting, but you're still working. And you're not letting your body make the decision on what you really need to do. And it goes back to a video that Gary made. He called it August. So he just talked about how in August, people either just chill or they continue to be aggressive. But he said you have to pick one. You can't just be on the fence and be like, oh, I'm going to kind of work this week and then I'm going to kind of sleep. Like, it's just not going to be beneficial for you, because you just need to choose one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's kind of you're in or you're out, right? My old boss actually had this. He had a pretty good analogy on this one as far as it related to the gym. And what he said was, a lot of people, they'll go to the gym, right? I don't know. I can't stand going to the gym. I hate it, but I go because I know it's good for me. It's health, those type of things, right? But there's obviously times where I don't want to go to the gym. And I sit home and I might eat something, some ice cream or something like that. But I'm worried about like, oh man, I know I should go to the gym, but I really just want to chill here and relax and eat some ice cream. But if you're sitting there and you're feeling bad or you're guilting yourself, like say you don't go to the gym and you sit home and you eat ice cream, or you sit home and you like feel bad about the fact that you're not at the gym, like that's a worst case scenario right there. So because you're taking the time off, so stop thinking about it, just do it. Right? Just say, screw it. I'm not going to the gym. I'm going to eat this ice cream. I know exactly what that means. I'm going to feel good about the fact that I'm eating this ice cream and I'm not going to the gym, and I'm not going to feel bad about myself for not going to the gym. Right.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing with this one. My recommendation this week, I think you could add one more piece to this, which is what my recommendation would be, which is first get after it. Right. So I think today and tomorrow, there are enough people who are taking this week off mentally, maybe not the whole week, but I almost guarantee there's some executives like myself and some other executives I know who are using this week to catch up a little bit, to tone it, to kick down a notch. There's not as much chaos. There's very low email volume. There's very minimal amount of meetings that are happening within organizations, right? Because it was just the end of the half. So this is kind of like the breather week for so many people. So a couple of things on that. One is I actually think you can get direct to decision makers a lot faster and easier this week because they're going to be chilling, right? And so that's why I think to your keep dialing here, Morgan, I think one of the best things you could do today and tomorrow is just crush the phones today and tomorrow. See what happens, okay? So literally get after it right now, because your competition isn't. I almost guarantee your competition, I mean that both internally and externally, by the way. I mean, your internal competition as far as the other reps who are you're competing against for that next promotion, but also your external competition. While everybody else is sleeping, if you're getting after it, you have a chance to excel there. So pipeline development is huge now for Q4. But if today and tomorrow aren't bearing any fruit, so say you're calling and whatever, and nobody's picking up and you're not getting those conversations, well, then Thursday, Friday, I would use to do what you're saying, which is like the full-blown admin stuff, right? Really get stuff in order. So what are some of the things, Morgan, that you can suggest to people that they, from an admin or a project standpoint, like think back to your days of being an SDR or an SDR manager type of stuff, and some of the stuff that you're working on now, like, what are some of the tactical things that you could suggest people do during their downtime? Say they get after it Monday, Tuesday, nothing's going on. Thursday, Friday, I got to sit there. What are some of the things that they should be doing?
I think big thing that you can start doing is, and this is what I did, is create it, whatever you have, Evernote, like there's all tons of things, whatever note-taking tool that you have, and look at the top 25, top 50, top 75, top 100 accounts, and figure out what are the insights and triggers you can use to reach out to them. And I'm not saying you don't have to reach out this week if you don't have the time to, but it's taking like a full day to be like, okay, like where are all the insights? YouTube channels, podcast interviews, could be somebody wrote a book that's in the organization. Taking all those insights, so then when you come back next week, all you have to do is start hammering out those insights in email and directly to people. So that's something that I would look at. Another thing that I did is,
let me jump in on that one, because what I used to do is, and this is just for me, I still do this, where I take my top 25, right? So I got a spreadsheet where it's the name of the company, their website, and the name of the main point of contact that I want to reach out to, and then their LinkedIn profile. So those 4 columns are there on my spreadsheet. And then column 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are trigger 1, trigger 2, trigger 3, trigger 4, trigger 5, or reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, reason 4. And what I do is I'll sit there, and during downtime, like we're talking about, or just while I'm watching TV or, some mindless thing in the background, I will just poke around people's websites and look for those reasons. And I'll just cut and paste them in there. So they might not be perfect, right? They might not be, oh, here's the exact thing I'm going to say. But it'll be the research, and where I'll throw the link in there, or I'll just do a quick little thing and then sublink it to something else. Yep. And so that way, now to your point, when I come in on Monday next week, I have 25 accounts. I have 4, 5, 6 different triggers for each one of them that I could use to tell a story to. And now I've expedited the research. Now all I got to do is craft the messages and let it go. Now, if you want to take that to another level and craft all your messaging and figure out all your stories, I definitely recommend that if you have the time. But at the bare minimum, I love it, what you're saying there, which is really just do some homework, right? Prep for every single really tier 1 account. Come up with your strategy around those things. So cool. What else? What else should people be doing right now?
So fine-tuning messaging. This is, and it depends. Like when I get to where I'm going, which I'm going to Orlando, if before I actually take the real vacation, which is going to start tomorrow, might go through some fine tuning on my messaging, because like there's some messaging I have like where it's like 20%, 26% view rate, but like no responses, and I've sent like 100 emails. All right, that email's obviously not good, so I need to change that. Yeah. So it's just obviously it's terrible. So like the thing is like I got to figure out how to get rid of that and add something that's more beneficial. And then also if you're using Vidyard, it's something that I'm doing right now. So this morning I made about 20 videos. And so I'm making videos so that I can send out either this week or send them out next week so I can prepare. And so I'm just getting the momentum of like I can do a lot more outreach when I come back. Also phone calls as well, like reviewing your own phone calls. So I guess for John, for example, like if you're a leader right now, like to actually go through a lot of gong calls, because John has like had enough time to go through my gong calls yet. And like during this downtime, you can go through those and give me like more critical feedback so I can get better on calls. And then also you can review your calls on your own time as well. Like you have that time to go through, because again, there not will be as many people like trying to contact you, or a lot of people you won't be able to get in contact with unless, as you say, keep dialing, you're making those direct dials. So those are a couple of things that I do during the downtime, but I really just try to take the time to clean up my list and get prepared. And also I saw a comment from Robert. What's up, Robert?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that, cleaning up your list, and Lucas brings up like, how do you use CRM Salesforce in conjunction with your own spreadsheet in Evernote without duplicating efforts? I actually use CRM to clean up all, so I think starting from scratch here, not scratch, but at the beginning, what if I would do, and I used to do this with my reps too, is I would run a list of everybody's accounts in their territories and and I would dump an Excel file to see where all the white space was. So obviously, hopefully in there you have the name, the contact information, those type of things. But if you don't, that's something you should go and figure out how to clean up all that stuff. But then what are the other white spaces that you have, right? So, what technologies do they use? Who's the competition in there? Those type of things. And what we would do is we do database cleanup days once a quarter, one Friday afternoon a quarter. Friday afternoon pizza and beer. And we would and I would have it, we wouldn't be moving. But I would have, the reps call in. I said, look, I don't care whether you get meetings or not. I care whether you fill out all this blank space, right? So they would do, and this is actually an interesting technique that you could use, or, obviously anybody listening to this could use. We would call into like the 1-800 sales lumber, right? Like 1-800 sell whatever, and actually start a conversation with the frontline sales reps and kind of be like, hey man, and just start a conversation. Because again, this is a time where those type of reps are looking to get their talk time up. So they're happy to have a conversation with anybody. Yeah. And we were pretty open. We were like, look, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get into your company. And as sales rep to sales rep here, is there anything I can help you out with? But, here's a few things I was wondering if you might be interested in sharing that information with me. I can share with you something else or whatever that was, right? And they would literally just call all day, way low level stuff, and just fill out those spreadsheets. And then I would take those spreadsheets, upload them back into Salesforce with all the updated contact information, right? So to Lucas's question here, by focusing on that actually might be a great exercise I would go through if everybody's looking to like, hey, where do I start or what should I do, is dump your list, figure out where the white space is, figure out the information you should be getting that would make your life and talk tracks a lot easier, and then go clean that entire thing up. And then tag them appropriately. So we have our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 characteristic, right? So you got your tier 1 accounts, your tier 2 accounts, and your tier 3 accounts. Well, then you can dump a list of all your tier 1 accounts that has all that contact information in it. And now, Lucas, you can put them into a spreadsheet and look for the triggers and those type of things. So that's how I kind of combine the two. But I think you're spot on, Morgan, as far as listening to calls, proactively asking for coaching. This is a great time for training. I mean, not to promote our own shit here, obviously, but I think this is a great time, right, to do training. We've been trying to get you in a presentation skills class, that type of thing. Like this would be a great time of the year to do that because you're not doing anything. And so self-education, training, those type of things, all good stuff to do. I do want to throw one more thing in there that I think people will tend to overlook, which is looking at their lost deals. So actually two things: developing better relationships with existing accounts and reviewing your lost deals, right? To take a look at your pipeline and say, okay, over the past 3 to 6 months, what deals have I lost? And is there any type of commonality through those? Yeah. Because you and I talked about like practicing this morning, right? With all the deals that are in your pipeline. I mean, look, this is the time of year where it's almost inevitable you're going to hear, sorry, Morgan, it's the end of the quarter. I'm pushing hard to get this. Yeah, let's connect next week. Let's do. It's almost inevitable, right? So what do we talk about the two things that you really focusing on here moving forward based on kind of your forecast and pipeline?
Number one is getting to power.
Yep.
That's been the key tell sign probably every single time. But again, we're coming up with tactics to get better. And I have been getting to power, and obviously those conversations have been different. So that's one thing we're continuously working on. And then two is just being straight up to figure out like, hey, what are the next steps, but more so like, let me know if it's a yes or no moving forward. Right. So I'm going to start doing that more to be like, hey, look, like as I wrap up this call, like I've had conversations that end like this, and normally they tell me, hey, here are the next steps, and they tell me I have to go talk to someone. Just let me know if it's a yes or no or not, because as we both know as sales professionals, like maybe or no answer is an answer that we don't want. So being more upfront with that is something that I'm going to be instituting more on my calls. And I actually did it today. And the person was just like, hey, like, actually, you know what? Like the price seems like this right now. Like, I don't know about it, but at the same time, like 6 months down the line, this is something that I actually want to do. Like, I do want to continue conversations. So now I'm not like, oh, next steps, like you want to do it. It's like, no, like there's some expectations there. And now that I've set the stage that he can be honest with me, we can move forward in the right direction. So I'm more excited to do that this quarter with the conversations I continue to have them, to just after that qualification call to be like, hey, look, like this, I know it sounds great, but like what's really going to happen here? And like, let me know.
Yeah, I think that goes back to, expectation setting is the key in every way, shape, and form, right? So a lot of times people are a little hesitant, especially after you go through that qual process with you, right? So that you've qualified them, you've shared them some information, you've set them up on the online portal, like all that stuff. Now there's a little bit of shit, I feel bad telling this person we're not going to do it. So it's a lot easier to just drag you along. Whereas I think if we're transparent about it, to say, look, I don't want to be the annoying sales rep here, but could you let me know? Like, I think that, and I started doing that a long time ago because I was in a very similar situation that you were in, where I was just so frustrated with people having really good conversations with people that seemed like it was a no-brainer to get this thing going. And then it just, deals would just sit there, or they would die, or they would never call me back. And so I started being like, all right, maybe it's the fact that people are just uncomfortable with telling me no. So why don't I just preempt that? Right. So now it's, hey, look, and the way I tend to phrase it is, look, as we go through the sales process, there obviously is something need for me, let me know. But if there's something at a certain point where you see that we are not a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish, and I'm not seeing it for some reason because I got my sales lens on or whatever it is, or I don't know what those type of things. Are you okay with telling me no? And then shh. And you could layer in, and the reason I ask that is because, right, we've talked about this on previous podcasts, like giving people a reason why you're asking the question sometimes makes it a lot easier for them to actually answer the question, because now they're not wondering, why are you asking that question? So what I'll say is, hey, are you okay with telling me no? The reason I ask is because a lot of times we go through this process, we have a good conversation, we go back and forth, and then for whatever reason on your end, something comes up or it drops down on the list of priorities, and then we play the touch and base and checking in game 50 times. And I don't want to be that annoying sales rep. So are you okay with telling me no? Usually I get yes, John. And then, by the way, you almost want to track this, because we didn't talk about this part of it. You almost want to track the people that said yes to that. Oh yeah, sure. Absolutely, Morgan. Like when I tell you it's not a good fit, I'll tell you if it's not a good fit. But then when they ghost you and they start going dark on you, then you can actually kind of have some fun with it. So you can have you'd be like, hey, what's up, so-and-so? I've called you 3 or 4 times since then. You've said you wanted to do something. It's been about a week and a half since you said you wanted to do it. Like, remember I asked you early on, but if you were okay with telling me no, like, are we at that point in the conversation here? Are we at the point of our relationship yet? Because I feel like you're dumping me, but it's killing me softly as opposed to just ripping the Band-Aid off. And I'd much rather have the Band-Aid ripped off, right?
Exactly.
So,
that's my point.
Yeah. And so, and actually, Manuel has this one coming up. He says, I'm going through that right now. I've tried just what you said, John, but somehow people are still hesitant to say no somehow. You're spot on, man. And Manuel, that's why I think having some fun with it, setting the stage and saying, are you okay with telling me no? But then kind of having fun with it later. To be like, look, you told me you were cool with this. Like, are we at that point yet? And you'll at least get a response that way, right? So cool, man. Well, what are some any other tactical things that you could suggest that people do? Because I'm trying to think of anything and everything. If I had a laundry list,
I got one. So, and this is something that I probably will actually do tonight because I'll have a lot more time to just be quieter. So write down goals for the quarter. Now, again, some people may not be at the beginning of their quarter, because I know fiscal years are different for everybody. But for most people, like July is that start of the new quarter. So writing down your goals for the quarter, like what do you want to accomplish when you get done? And this is professionally and personally. So I do it every quarter to figure out like where I'm at. So big thing for me, like an example was for me to get a personal trainer for like this quarter or last quarter. And so I did that. So now it's been helping me with all the stuff that I'm doing. So by writing that out, it's really helpful because there's some stuff in your head probably right now. You're like, dang, I need to do that. Yep. And you don't do it because you don't write it down. So that's one thing that I know how to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the personal piece is a big one because I think your personal goals drive, or my opinion here, your personal goals should drive your business goals, right? So if you want to again, kind of paint that lifestyle picture of you where you want to be, and then back into it as far as how much money you need to make, what kind of job, those type of things. So, but I think you're spot on. If we're not looking at it from both perspectives to say, hey, business wise, this is how, but I'm also got to take care of myself type of stuff. I mean, I actually have it written on my board to remind myself to do personal goals, because I usually get way too caught up in business to act, to take care of myself. And so every day is, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. Like unfortunately, my health has historically been a distant second priority compared to my professional goals. But I have exercise, vitamins, love, and goals as my 4 things that I need to pay attention to every day. Like I need to make sure I'm setting goals every day. I make sure I need to say I love you to somebody every day. Genuinely, I need to take my vitamins. So I'm, whatever they do for me.
Well, let's make a point on that though, real quick, because obviously I'm going to bring up Gary here, but this is something that made me to make the decision on a lot of stuff that I do now, because I'm the same way as you, and you probably already know this. Like I'm very focused on my professional career. So like I will put things aside. I'm like, no, I'll just do that later because like I'm gonna be fine. Which, I could be fine, but like at the same time I could not be. Right. So I think a big thing is figuring out like what are the things that you need to do to make sure that you do those. Is it hiring someone? Is it getting a plan together? Is it having someone who's accountable to like that? Because that's what you need to figure that out. Gary said like that's the reason why he hired a personal trainer, is because he just didn't do anything. Like he was so focused on his career, he didn't do the stuff that he needed to do. So he has to have people accountable to him. So I think like everyone needs to think about like what are some things that I can improve upon that like from a personal standpoint that like you're just not doing. And I have to have like certain friends in my life even to tell me that like, yo, we got to go do something, because like I could go 6 months and not hang out with anyone and just be focused on my career, and I would be like whatever. Yeah. But I can't do that because that doesn't make sense. So it's like you have to figure out ways to be proactive. And that's just another goal that like I have written down, is just be intentional with relationships and things across the board.
Yeah, and be as objective as possible too. You know what I mean? Like really, I don't think there's anything wrong with mapping out what your personal goals are and then holding people accountable to that, right? I mean, you hear it all the time where Gary talks about, you are your collective of your closest group of friends, right? Yeah. Sometimes your personal goals have to be disassociating with some people that are just not healthy for you in a relationship. I find that actually to be the hardest thing of Gary's advice, by the way, is it's no problem when I find somebody who I can level up to do my best at engaging in them and trying to be more associated with them than I am people who are dragging you down. But there's some times where you just got some boys, right? Like from back in the day or high school or, girls or something like that that are good friends. But like they complain all the time about their job. They're at happy hour at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Friday. They're chilling all weekend doing nothing, but yet still complaining about how they want everything. And it's like, how do you? I personally think you just need to compartmentalize those people and treat them for how they are, and lower your expectations of engaging from a cerebral or a business standpoint, and say, you know what, it is what it is. Like we're just friends here, and we're just literally looking to have a good time and not change my brain. Whereas I think there's a group of others that you can go to, and that actually brings up something that I know you've done, which is you've identified people that you've wanted to interview from an informational interview standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. Like talk people through that process of how you identified people that you had admired and then what your approach was. Because I think that could also be another reason or something to do this week is kind of put together your top 10 highlight list of people you'd love to have a conversation with and why. Yeah. And go after them.
Yeah, I'll definitely touch on that. And then I definitely want to touch on the friends too, because I think that's important. But to answer your question, so I have people that I identify that I really want to interview. Obviously, Gary is one of them. Tom Billiou, you guys probably heard me mention before. Those people of that nature that like I really admire and respect. And what I do is I try to find commonalities in their message to something I believe in, and then I try to interview them on that. So I know I pay attention to Gary, so I'll use him as an example because he has the most content. He talks a lot about B2B sales, and he talks about like how people need to be more into sales, but no one ever asks him sales questions. It's always like, how do I grow my Instagram following, and like, how do I get a personal brand? Like, those are the normal questions he gets, but no one is ever like diving him about the sales process and like how he's doing sales and like his mindset behind it. So I just try to find commonalities to get those informational interviews. Even back in college, probably an easier example, I wanted to be a sports agent, so I would go to a lot of sports events, sports business events. And back when LinkedIn, they probably had personalized invitations, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I would just add everyone that was in a sports company or local to the Atlanta area. And I would just ask like, hey, I'm aspiring to be a sports agent. I know you've been in the industry for 10, 20 years. Like, I just want like 15, 20 minutes of your time. And I want to ask you a couple of questions as I evolve in my career. And most of the time people were receptive to that. And a lot of people that were receptive to that have very high level positions. I mean, the most notable one was the owner of the Atlanta Hawks. I have no idea. Like, that conversation was just off the charts. And I always ask people, and this is important if you do get these conversations, if it's not like an interview, like for your podcast, is to be like, why did you take this conversation? Like, you need to ask that, because the answer you'll normally get is because no one proactively reaches out to them just asking for advice. Right. Most people that they say that reach out to them are asking for a job, they're asking for an opportunity, they're asking for money, they're asking to get put on, but no one ever actually reaches out to them like, hey, I just want to talk to you for 15, 20 minutes because I just want some advice and I just want some value from you. And if you come prepared with the right questions, those relationships can last a long time. I still talk to people that I had informational interviews back in college. So really figure out people that are your industry. It could be someone that's on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. It really doesn't matter. Sending them an email, that's the YUI now email essentially is what it was, and just providing that value. But you have to find commonalities of what they're in. You don't send an email to someone who's in the sports industry to be like, oh, you're in the sports industry, I think it's cool, like, let's talk. Like, there has to be something you're aspiring to do, or there's a reason. And John can kind of touch on that, because I know that he's always talks about like, I'll take meetings with you, but I have to know the reason of why we're having a meeting. Like, I'm just not going to talk for 30 minutes to talk for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is, doing the homework. Oops. You hear an echo now?
Yeah, it's echoing. I don't know why.
All right. Let me do this. But I think you're right. Like, I actually, and Lucas had brought up a question here. Is John and Morgan, what are your thoughts on mentorship and paid mentorship? I think this falls in line with that. I think I don't recommend, I kind of follow the Jack Welch mentality on this one, which is, first of all, I don't think you should pay for it. Anybody who charges you to be a mentor is a little weird to me. I'll pay somebody to be a consultant for me so I can bounce ideas off. If I've had a professional coach that is actually, I've, had weekly calls with and that type of thing, and I'll do that, but I don't consider that a mentorship. Any mentor that would charge you is somebody I would probably avoid in general. But the free ones, look to see, don't just have, I actually think it's a bad thing just to have one mentor or mentally commit to one person, because that person is probably strong in some areas and really weak in others. So what I recommend is you look for different mentors in different stages of what you're trying to be mentored on. So if you are aspirationally entrepreneur, fine. Go find out some entrepreneurs who've been there, done that, and find a couple of them to have a conversation about how do you become an entrepreneur and what does it mean and all that stuff. If you're looking for a sales mentor about like, how can I be more successful in sales? Well, then go find somebody who's awesome at sales and pick their brain, grab lunch with them. If you're looking for somebody that's a really good relationship developer, like really has insane relationships with their customers and all that other stuff, and those type of things, find somebody mentor there. So that's where you can get little pieces of a bunch of people who are focused and good at those specific things and be mentored by them, right?
Yep.
So I like it. And that's where, one of the things that you and I talked about for your prep, and you hit it on it this morning during our review call, was identifying the 5 or 6 different channels of where you can get business, right? Because for everybody listening right now, so I'm going to give you a plug here, Morgan. Morgan's 100% as of July 2nd here. He's 100% on quota, right? So now I'm serious. Like, his ramp is over. He's been delivered. He's gotten good feedback. He's selling it. Great, go. So now we're on quota, right? And so now you got to figure out the rest of your year. And would you talk about people, like, you don't have to name the sources, but what were the channels that you talked about this morning and really kind of looking to optimize each one of them?
Yeah, so we're breaking it down. So reverse engineering, there's X amount of trainings that I have to do for the rest of the year. And so by calculating that, I have to figure I'm probably not going to get all those from one channel. Like it's just, I could, but that's just not, that doesn't make sense. So the big thing I'm doing is segmenting into different ways I can do that. LinkedIn obviously is a source there, using other people's networks, referrals, different companies that I may know that will be able to help me out. Also looking at my outbound prospecting, videos that I make, content perspective, personal brand. So I'm using everything together and the connections that I know to segment out, okay, for this, like I could get at least 3 to 5 from here. Or like from this, like I know we can get 5 to 7. From this, I think we can get 10. So by able to focus it that way, I now know where to put my energy, and I'm not blindly going after it, but just working to work. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out here prospecting, out doing these great things, which is great, but it's more beneficial for me to segment those out so that I know these are the channels that I can get those opportunities from. And we're not going into the rest of this year like, well, good luck. I hope you hit the number.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So just to summarize here for everybody's takeaways, like both of us, Morgan and I said, because we're up on the hour here, you're either in this week or you're out this week. If you're in this week, go all in and use it as an opportunity to either clean some stuff up or get ahead of your competition. And some easy things to do from first of all, get on the phones today and tomorrow. Guarantee you there'll be decision makers chilling. And then second of all, if that doesn't happen, then click over to projects. Clean your list, get your database right, find your triggers, do some personal development, all those different things I would highly recommend people do right now. And if not, obviously get after it. And Morgan, you said, so just to finish up, you're going to Orlando, you said?
Going to Orlando.
Cool. Is this with the family or is this just you?
Family.
All right, cool. So tell mom and dad I said hi. Cool. And have some fun this weekend. Like I said, Morgan and I, from everybody else, like when we go off the grid, we go off the grid, but we go off with a cell phone handy in the sense that if you need anything, text real quick, right? Because that's an emergency. But at the end of the day, like I always put on my out of office, we're not brain surgeons. We ain't curing cancer here. So I almost guarantee your email can wait until I get back. All right. So with that, hopefully everybody enjoyed the day. Help Morgan out. He's on quota right now. So if you do know some people looking for training, I'm going to give Morgan a plug here, send him his way. Just make it a great week one way or the other. If you're going to take the time off, take it off and enjoy it and mentally clear yourself and get ready for the grind coming up here on the 9th if you're coming back there. So Morgan, any last words to everybody on this wonderful 4th of July weekend or week?
Enjoy it if you're going to take vacation. If you're not taking vacation, definitely take the time to strategically plan everything out. That's been the biggest benefit for me is when I actually plan everything out and I'm ready to go. And just keep dialing if you're in the office and you're making those phone calls.
Awesome, everybody. Well, have a great 4th. Make it happen, and we will see you next week. Later on. Cheers.